call the meeting to order. I want to welcome everybody. Start with the prayer and then the pledge. And Lord, my heart is heavy with the people down in Florida, the losses. Give the people that's helping them strength to help them get through this crisis. I pray for around this, in this room, everything that's decided to be for the betterment of this community. And all these things I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome.
Mark? Here. Bassett? Here. Beverly? Here. Edward? Here. Martin? Booker?
Okay, next on the agenda is Cara Potter from the Defiance Public Library System. Supper, please.
Hi, I don't know, do I need to do anything to this? No? Okay. Thank you for making time for me tonight. I really appreciate this. I'm here today to give you an update on the library levy. So the library has a 5-year renewable levy, and it's on the ballot this November. So as a library director, I cannot campaign for this, but I can share the facts about the history of funding here in Hicksville for the library, and then what the levy does for us. So I did do some research before I came before groups in Hicksville to find out what the history was here. So the Defiance Public Library funded and staffed a reading room in Hicksville in March 1939. So the reason they did that is because during the Great Depression, Ohio legislators became concerned with how many communities were selling their Carnegie libraries and the contents to meet budget shortfalls. So in 1938, the state of Ohio began partial funding of public libraries on a county-wide basis and passed legislation giving the library boards ownership of their buildings, contents, and the ground the library sits on. So once that funding started, the main library now, the Defiance Library, started receiving that funding. They set up reading, almost a mini branch here, and then they set up reading rooms in Sherwood, Mark Center, Farmer, Evansport, Ney, and Jewell. So the Hicksville branch was originally in the basement of the school. And after 5 years, the Johnson Memorial Library was constructed, and that was in 1959. So costs were covered by a gift from Karma Johnson Rowe, and the branch library moved into this new building, and which was, I'm sure, much nicer. I don't know which basement room they were in during that time period. And so the branch moved to the Johnson Memorial Library, and the Defiance Library leased the building, which we still do today. So today it's evolved into the Johnson Memorial the Friends of the Johnson Memorial Library. So they own the building and the grounds, and they do the maintenance. And then the library, Defiance Library System, supplies the staff, the contents, services, and book deliveries, things like that. So the Friends are a great support for Hicksville, though. They help fund the library programs, especially in the summertime. They're a huge help. So just to give you an idea of how much funding comes to Johnson Memorial Library, so we cover, let's see, in 2021, the funds spent on Johnson Memorial Library from the Defiance system was $162,270. And then the Friends helps supplement that with money for programming. So the library system, which encompasses Johnson Memorial Library, has 2 income streams. One of them is from the Public Library Fund, which is it's 1.7% of the statewide sales tax. So that comes to the county to the Defiance Library, and then we share that money with Sherwood and Hicksville. So the other income stream comes from a county-wide tax levy that was started 15 years ago. So the library only has one levy, and this is it. And we're hoping to renew it for another 5 years. We'll have the same levy then for 20 years. And it provides about 1/3 of our budget. So it's based on the real estate taxes, I believe, in the county. And I think I skipped ahead here. So it provides about approximately 1/3 of the library system's funding. So, and I found these other facts that were interesting. So Hicksville was the first branch in 1938, and then Sherwood was in 1939. And all the other branches and reading rooms just sort of dissipated from lack of use or funding. I don't know, but I'm very happy that we have this branch and the one in Sherwood too. So I just want to give you some information about the value that the Johnson Memorial Library provides to the Hicksville community. So I have the statistics from 2021 and a few from this year. So in 2021 at Johnson Memorial Library, 18,255 items were checked out. 1,291 COVID test kits were distributed, and let's see. And we continued to work on the Hicksville Summer Lunch Program. So this is something that I got involved with my first year working in Defiance County. I was contacted by Susan Mack for the Community Service Center, the Hicksville Community Service Center, and she needed somebody to sort of organize the community center, the hospital, and some volunteers to provide a free summer lunch for kids in Hicksville. So the library went ahead and did that, and we've gradually been handing more and more of the responsibility over to the Community Service Center, and this summer they ran it completely on their own, which was great. So the first year we ran it, I was here actually handing out the lunches because all the staff was laid off due to COVID. And we handed out a little more than 2,000 lunches that summer. So I know we're not handing out as many this year. I think the need was greater maybe during that first year of COVID. Do is help community organizations or projects get up and running and help them then become independent and be able to work on their own. So we're currently working with Hicksville Historical Society in the same sense. I'm trying to help them get back on their feet organizationally, and the library hopefully will be working with them in the future to help preserve some of their paper documents. And I think that's all I got tonight.
Anybody got any questions? The library is a big asset to this community. And when I show people around, that's one of the, not the first, maybe as I start the school, come this way, you know, right there's the Huber, then the library, and the downtown. So
thank you. I think the staff there, they've always done a good job, but I think this summer they just really hit it out of the park with the summer reading program. I was able last year to give promotions to 2 of the Hicksville staff so that they could get more involved in the programming, and so they actually designed, I think, almost all of the summer reading program, and they did great, which I thought they would. I had a lot of confidence in them. So, but thank you so much for saying that.
I see a few signs up for the levy for the library. So
yes, there's a levy committee that's handling that, and the Hicksville contact for the levy committee is Dawn Costello. So if you want to sign or to get involved in any way, Dawn would be the person to speak with.
okay.
So just to be clear, this is a renewal of...
Yes, it's a renewal, and it's 0.75 mil.
I can only speak volumes. I know my wife and kids are up there all the time, and they love it, so appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm very grateful to be here tonight, too. I actually fell in love with Hicksville that first year I was handing out the summer lunches, so I live here now. So I've been away for about 4 or 5 days right now taking care of my dad in Michigan, and when I got back about an hour ago, and when I drove into town, I was like, oh, I'm so glad to be home. It's not like Monroe, Michigan. So.
I see you had the governor's wife read the kids in Defiance
so
Thursday.
That was on very short notice.
Because I got a notice to try to get there, and it was that day.
Right. I sent invitations to all the mayors in the county, and the only one that was able to get there on such short notice was the Defiance mayor. And I also invited the county commissioners, and all 3 of them were able to make it. But she had contacted Defiance United Way, saying she wanted to come to Defiance and read to a group of children. So United Way contacted me to help set this up on 24-hour notice. So we did. I think it went pretty well, and we were able to get some children for her because it was at a very not inconvenient time for the schools. It was like at a little after noon, 12:30. So Holy Cross Rising Fives came, and they were the audience. So it worked out well.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you for everything you do.
Well, thanks so much.
Okay, thanks, Cara. Okay, next on the agenda, approval of September 19th regular council meeting minutes. Any additions, corrections?
Make a motion to approve as written.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Beverly,
Yes.
Klepper,
Abstain.
Martin,
Yes.
Bassett,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
Egley. Yes.
Okay, before you, the bills. For your approval, any questions?
A couple, Mayor.
Okay.
Lori, the well field construction for $13,880 for AEP, is that for our underground?
Yes,
And that's the end of it, we're done?
yes, and it should be reimbursable.
Final? Okay.
Time for a new one.
Patch that hole up there.
Yep.
That's,
That's 2 days worth. That was
Did they bring the
control,
plates also?
traffic control, and I don't know what it was.
you guys
9,
did
10
traffic
inches.
control, didn't you?
We didn't. We had nothing to do with it.
Oh, yeah?
I took care of all that over 2 days.
So that's, I mean, basically from the gravel fill initially, all the way through pavement that's there now.
Well, they dug it out. And
Yeah.
Correct, yeah. From the gravel fill from when we had to do the patch.
Okay, that's all I had. And
Okay. Second?
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Barth,
Yes.
Egley. Yes. Martin,
yes.
Bassett,
Yes.
Beverly,
Yes.
Klepper.
Yes.
Boards and commissions, I don't see any reports. Anybody want to report on that? Council committee report, Street Light and Property Committee met 9/29. See that you, Ron?
Yes. Thank Tony for doing such a wonderful job on taking minutes for us. We came down to on, get the right one here. Cheryl kind of thought it would be good that we increase which one was it, Tony?
It was the
Is that-
underinsured motorist
Yeah,
insurance.
and we as a committee thought it would be all right, but we would like to have council.
Especially Troy's.
Yes,
Because it was 50,000 or 100,000, and initially we all thought it dealt with somebody hit one of our vehicles and they were underinsured or no insurance, and come to find out that's not the case.
Has
That's not
nothing
what
to
that
do with it.
insurance is about. All three of us said we normally go with your,
So what's the insurance for?
It covers the person, basically, anything that would happen.
especially if it's a non-village employee. Like, let's say you're driving a village vehicle and you have your a non,
Spouse or-
yeah, a
yeah.
friend or something, or you're giving a tour to
You hire
another
potential-
company or hire, and they're not officially hired yet, and you get in an accident and you're negligent, it has to be that you're at fault too, if I remember correctly. For this type of, that would be when that liability insurance would be beneficial to the village. We thought it was like if they have a $100,000 insurance policy and they hit a fire truck that costs $1 million and they total it, that was gonna offset the difference, and he goes, no, that has nothing to do with it.
It would have to do with like injuries, it wouldn't have to do with property damage. I probably, is today the meeting when you gotta vote on it? I was gonna say I should talk to Conrad about that, because if that, I guess what I would suggest is it's always, you get into the same situation is it worth, the likelihood of something like that happening, is it actuarially worth paying whatever the premium is for it? And I would say, Conrad would know better than I.
Well,
but I would say that those type of claims probably don't happen.
Conrad never had this.
Right.
And
when they did, it might have been, I guess, pricey at some point or whatever, but I guess is it worth the extra amount for the premiums on the coverage? That's
Just so I'm clear, so it was his recommendation to add the rider for the underinsured and uninsured, but then he also made a recommendation to increase the general liability
he's
policy?
not.
he didn't say to add the uninsured
No.
and underinsured.
It was one of the options.
It was just, he just quotes some options just to
Just
throw
as
them
an
out
annual,
there.
so this was just an annual renewal.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have really like the Cadillac of policies compared to some of the other villages around the
Right,
area.
right.
And he kind of led us to believe that the only way that he would do the uninsured is if that's what we wanted. But he did highly recommend the increase in our liability.
All
Take
across
it
the
up
board, be
another
$1
million.
million for every
Right.
item, yeah.
Yeah, and any insurance man that you ever speak with, he will always encourage you to increase that.
So it's increasing to $1 million or increasing by $1 million?
Increasing by
$1 million.
To,
So most of them are 3 million.
Six.
so it'd be
Yeah,
4,
they're
then
between
some of
3
them are
and
5, and some of them, then that would be bumped up to 6.
and that's per incident?
The 3 million per incident, maximum of 6 million. This would be if it got changed. Right now it's 3 and 5. 3 million per incident, or up to 5 million per year.
Okay.
And we want to take it to 6.
This would be
That would be
4 and 6.
4 and 6.
Yeah,
So what's the cost to do that?
1,145.
No,
That's for
that's
the-
the other one. The other one was close to 3,000, wasn't
That's the
it?
uninsured, underinsured.
Where's that
Oh.
paper?
Yeah, you have it in the other packet.
Yeah, it's on that other paper.
Yeah, that seems really high, just for.
Oh, okay, that is, take it up $1 million is 1,124, or take it up $2 million, and that's 2,248.
So increasing by $1 million is $1,125 more.
Correct.
I would definitely recommend that. I don't think I would recommend the uninsured for $50,000 worth of coverage. I mean, that's a lot of money, but that's not, for lack of a better term, that's not bankrupt the village money. An extra $50,000 of coverage.
You said most of that was like for like pain and suffering.
Right.
Those type of
Right.
items.
That's what I'm saying is, I mean, if something were to happen and we got in that situation and say we, as a village, had to come up with $50,000, Cheryl doesn't want to hear this, but that's not, we're not gonna have to turn the keys over to somebody and say, hey, it's your village now to do that.
What's the basis to go from 5 to 6? Inflation?
Well, it's just inflation and $5 million, I mean, this sounds like, that's a lot of money to me, but in the general scope of things, $5 million is not gonna go very far if you listen to how much these judges and juries are handing out in
That
awards
was
and
part of what
stuff.
he was saying about the claims.
6?
That's what he was saying. He had 1 million or 2
6.
million. No.
I mean,
It's again the
kinda know your
same thing,
max.
where
Yeah.
you draw the line and how
Correct.
much is worth paying the extra for, and,
He comes every year,
Yeah.
and once it raised, then we always said no.
right,
Every 3 years.
3 years, okay, and then you make it 6, that just makes your pockets deeper. But
the following renewal.
So, it's up to you guys.
Well, if Troy is okay with not raising or adding the uninsured, underinsured, then I would vote to not add that and to keep the liability insurance the way it is and do not raise it by $1 million.
Are you all right with that? Good.
I would second that. That's the thing. I mean, at $5 million, $5 million is still, it's a hefty payout, and we're at $3 million per incident. So, I mean, to just throw another $1 million at it for a couple, $3,000 a year doesn't really seem. I mean, just for the sake of throwing another $1 million, this
Right.
doesn't seem like makes sense in my opinion.
What is it about?
'Cause, I mean, $5 million, $5 million is still, it's a hefty payout, and we're at $3 million per incident. So, I mean, to just throw another $1 million at it for a couple, $3,000 a year doesn't really seem. I mean, just for the sake of throwing $1 million at it.
Yes.
There's no reason not to.
So, any other thoughts?
Is there, Beverly?
Let's keep it the same. Right, we're not-
Right.
Yeah, we're keeping everything.
So we
the
don't
same,
have to make a motion because we're keeping it the same.
I already put EB down, so who's the second?
I would
Might as
also.
well get it in the minutes,
Yeah.
in case something happens and then somebody wants to start pointing fingers at.
Well, I got brought up too in the meeting. But more along the lines of if you
Yeah.
recommended it
Yeah.
and we voted against it,
Yeah.
then
Come back on you.
It is what
it comes back on us for voting against it because he
It is what
recommended
it
it.
is.
Okay.
That's why-
And the motion is what again?
To leave it the same.
Leave it as is. Okay. Roll call?
Beverly?
Yes.
Klepper?
Yes.
Bassett?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Egley?
Yes.
Barth?
Yes.
Okay. Any other committee reports?
Mayor, I was asked, can we get together or somehow work something out and get the lot sold on the corner of Main and Arthur?
Just need an auctioneer now, right? Or
Yeah, we authorized the sale and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I
We
agree.
need to pick an auctioneer and stuff, and then we can do kind of like we did. Hopefully it goes better than it did when we did out there, but authorize the contract with the auctioneer or whatever, and then go from there.
Can you take care of that, Corey?
Sure.
Okay. And also Michelle Ryder, Refuse had met with her a couple months ago, and we had worked out some details, and she called me today and wants to slip over and tell us exactly what she is going to present, and that is on 6/13 at 5 o'clock.
Speaking of that, you asked Tony and I just wanted to verify that would be you, Taylor, and Mike for refuse.
Then I need to get this changed.
Water sewer refuge is me, you, and Taylor.
Okay.
As soon as you get them memorized, don't they all change?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So
So it's, who is it?
You, Mike, and Taylor.
Yeah, water sewer refuse.
Okay, Taylor, can you make that?
She went
13th at 5 o'clock is what
6:13.
13th.
That's what he said.
10:13.
6 o'clock on the 13th, right?
No.
Yeah. The 13th of
There
October
we go. 10, 13.
at 5
October
o'clock.
13th at 5.
Can you do that?
I should be able to do that.
Okay. Can you do that?
That's a Thursday.
That's a Thursday. That's wonderful. So, we've got that, and that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other committee?
We need to talk sometime at the end here for Cheryl has some stuff for Cheryl.
Finance.
Yeah, for finance. We need to set a day and time.
Not pretty.
Budgets are starting to come in and we need to go over the first round.
Slash and hack
We'll
thing.
talk after the meeting and set up a day and time.
Okay.
Okay.
Went from 1.3 to 1.
No other committee reports? Okay. Administrators report?
I really don't have too much. I do want to congratulate Lucas Brown. Last week he did go and take his test for his wastewater 1 license and passed it with flying colors. So
Good.
congratulations to Lucas. Today, myself and Mike Barth and Ron Beverly and Dalton, we met with the engineers for the well field with Jones and Henry to discuss their concerns on the monitoring well portion of well 8. They had brought all kinds of data to us where they kind of have concerns that well 8 will not produce and perform the way it should. They're not sure if it'll actually produce the 500 gallons per minute that it needs to. So they would like to do a 2-inch test bore somewhere close to where well 8 is actually going to be, to see if it would actually become a good well. They've got all kinds of anyways, the cost gave us a very broad range of $5,000 to $11,000 to do this additional hole. It'll be a 2-inch hole, and they'll go down 200, 210 feet until they hit bedrock. It's kind of a, hopefully, it'll be a good insurance policy. If we decide not to go this route, and they go ahead and punch the big well in, it could be a few months, it could be a few years, and that thing fails, and then we're looking at uprooting and spending $100,000+ down the road for a new well. So we met with them, and you know, I don't think we really have much of an option. I think we need to just go this route. I think we're better off to be safe than sorry.
The other well was okay.
Well, they're in sand there. This one here, there's a lot of clay in it.
How far apart are they? The 2 wells, roughly.
I don't know, 150 yards maybe.
Okay.
And the well company that did the monitoring well, they came back and said this monitoring well, they're hitting a lot of clay, so they're kind of concerned. That's why before they dig the main well, they don't want to go, it's a lot more money to move it after it's done and replace it, so. We were hoping we didn't have to hear stuff like this from them. We know it was, we did a lot of studies ahead of time that this was a spot for this well, but again, we don't. And they said it's kind of a guessing game. You can't really see that far underground kind of thing, so. But we want to make sure it's going to pump 500 gallons a minute. That's the main capacity, and they said
The
they want to
EPA
make sure
says it has to
do
pump
that.
500. We grilled them pretty hard. They're not sneaking up on us. We grilled them pretty hard, so it's like Corey said, it's going to be, in the long run, it'll be a cheap insurance policy.
Everybody's in agreement with that, with Corey? Okay.
How long's well 8, the monitoring well for well 8 been in?
A little over a month. Other than that, that's all I got.
Any questions for administrator?
You get these, Corey, take a look at them. It's kind of interesting.
Okay, Solicitors Report. You're up, Troy.
I don't have any legislation tonight, but I do have updates on 3 things and maybe something that needs more discussion. One, in regard to the well field, I don't think I've had a chance to update Corey yet. I have had, I just took a chance, there was a question about easements for AEP out there. So when I saw Cheryl or somebody copied me on an email that had a couple people's email addresses at AEP, I just kind of generally said, hey, you know, I've been talking to Corey about this and my understanding of how that works. And she emailed back right away and said, no, they prepare all the easements. She's already done her part, and somebody else in her office is finishing whatever. So we got that squared away. In the next, maybe by the end of this week, but if not early next week, I'll have the drafts of those. I'm kind of jumping around the drafts of those ordinances that the ordinance committee asked for a couple things to be changed and one new one. I was waiting on a response. I always put things like that out to the listserv of the municipal attorneys when I got questions or somebody maybe with some guidance. And the one thing I wanted to make sure of in particular, there was a couple of things. The one thing is on the, for lack of a better term, the weed ordinance, making sure that we clearly define, I think the general term that was used was include grass and vegetation, but make sure that what stuff is decorative grasses or whatever, we want to make sure that's not, clearly not included in the definition, but other things that we on that. But that should be, like I said, it may even be by the end of this week, time permitting. The third thing is, I'm supposed to be this week getting a call back from the tower people. They've reviewed the stuff we sent them, and so I checked with them, I think it was last Thursday, and they told me they were gonna try to get back to me by the end of the week. So I'll shoot an email or something once I get that, and if there's any questions or if we need to get them any additional information so they can tell us what they're gonna do. And then the last thing Corey didn't bring up, but there was, I know at the last meeting there was a bunch of discussion about the trail out at the well site or whatever, and then there were discussions about what was going to be okay and what was going to be done with the land. And then I know Corey and the mayor and maybe Ron or somebody met with Troyers, and then they were asking me to do like a long-term agreement with them. And I know some had questioned whether or not that should be done under council approval. So when Corey and I were talking about it over the week, and I said we'll have to bring that up for discussion at the meeting, and whatever direction people want me to go, then I can do the agreement and bring whatever ordinance we might need in order to enter into an agreement like that. And the primary concern, at least, I mean, Taylor and I had a discussion about that, is if you're going to do some type of long-term agreement like that, making sure that it's something that the full council has approved and authorized, which we can do by, doing a resolution to enter into whatever that agreement is. But I know he wasn't here last meeting and has been involved with the trail people and more so than most, so I didn't know if we wanted to throw that out for discussion, and maybe Corey can even talk about what was proposed at the meeting and then go.
Sure. I know Mark Troyer had mentioned about doing like a 6-year agreement, and they would maintain that property for 6 years. We all in this room kind of discussed it, and I'm in total agreement putting something on paper rather than just a gentleman's agreement.
Sure.
And I will say that they were out over the weekend and they did get all their clover planted. They did stay roughly 15 feet or so away from the perimeter of that property. So, whenever the Trail Association is ready to do their thing, they're not going to disturb anything whatsoever. So I'm assuming that's what we'll have to agree upon, if we want to go a 1-year thing every year or just do a...
That was one of the things I suggested. A lot of times, instead of doing those long-term deals, you might do a 1 year that automatically renews, at the appropriate time, unless there's been given, 60 days, whatever type of notice would be necessary to make sure they don't spend money on buying seed, because I assume primarily it would be us wanting to get out of it more than it would be them, right, theoretically. Right. I mean, they would still have the option, I guess, as well, but that's the way normally you would see those done involving public entities, is 1 year, and then that way, if for no other reason, then, who knows, within a 6-year period of time, how many different people there might be sitting on this body or whatever. At some point, somebody might say, so then if we're not locked into some law where it's painful to get out of, at least, if we need to, you can do it on the 1 year and just continuing. And like I say, the only thing that would preclude, and I don't know, I'm obviously not into the farming business like they are, is if they're purchasing long-term amounts of seed based upon knowing they're going to do it for the next 5 or 6 years, so that may limit what they can do. But it still does kind of, as long as everything's going well, they know that they're kind of locked into it to automatically renew. And we can tie that to, for instance, in the event that we're going to sell the property or have another immediate use for it or whatever, as opposed to we just decided, hey, Joe Smith down the street said he'd do something that's a better deal for us, and so we're going to cut you loose. I mean, it wouldn't be that type of thing. It would be exit because we got a specific use for the property other than having clover planted in it.
Well, and that's where, so I get, because I was in the meeting, and I definitely makes sense at this juncture, but, it's just like in this scenario where we've got to drill a new test well.
Right.
How do we establish what the damages are?
Well, and what we'll do is we can link that to like I think the farm services people put out like standard values, and you just link it, it's like per acre or whatever, per how much ever this is, and you basically treat it like liquidated damages, you know,
Yeah.
if this happens and we gotta come in and we destroy this much, it'll be multiply this by this, and that's what we'll owe you.
And yeah, and basically just laying all of that out, because so there is no rent being paid
Right.
on this ground. It's
Right.
a maintenance agreement essentially.
Right.
So laying that out and then basically limiting what can be done there.
That
so,
too.
So laying all of that stuff out. So that was my recommendation. Basically, we need to get all of
Right.
that inked in a document, signed, so both parties understand that if they're backing out, that obviously some sort of damage
Right.
layout, and then understanding what they're limited to in doing on that property.
Right, and we specify that, you know, they're not to do anything that's gonna cause any problems for our wealth, you know.
And it'll also
specify that.
protect them.
It will
They've
protect
got
them.
a lot of sweat equity in the
Right.
property
Yeah,
already.
yeah, right. No, for sure. That's why I say, you know, we can put in there that gives us an out and what they're owed, but it won't just be a blanket like on a whim, we just decide, well, we don't wanna do that anymore.
Correct.
It's gonna have to be, we're selling the property, or we got a specific use, and we're gonna make it a full-blown trail, you know, I don't know what it could be.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of thing that maybe none of us are even thinking of right now, and something comes to light, and, but not just because, you know, somebody
Let
gets
me ask
upset
you a
with them.
question that several people have asked me. Does the trail committee, should they have a contract with the village?
Well, so that's what I was actually going to bring up. We're in the process, all the documents have been filed to be a nonprofit. The Trail Association is working towards that being a separate association, so not necessarily village associated. And in the instance that the association moves toward a paved trail in the park currently, there's obviously some access easements and stuff that would need to be granted as far as constructing hard pavement and that sort of thing across, you know, the multiple entities that are in that park. So it's not established yet as an organization, so nobody in the association can actually sign any paperwork yet. But I think it would be wise to put that on paper as well.
But he could get involved in the thought process of it.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind on that, and I know it's a bunch when it comes to the splash pad or whatever, anything that goes on village land is a village project.
Correct.
And so any type of thing that will be bid, anything that involves like prevailing wage, or I mean, that stuff will have to be observed, even if the money is coming from a trail association or the people raising it. So we need to, you know, because you don't get around that just by having private people, even if it's on village land, it's a village project.
Correct.
About the only way you get around that, and we've had that come up a couple times on smaller things, is you could have village employees do whatever work that they're qualified to do without obviously bidding it out or whatever, and that's why like little concrete jobs or whatever you do with that. But yeah, so that there need to be some understanding about the responsibilities and on each side, and where it goes from there. So
Well, I think it's wise on the village's part also.
Yeah.
If the association is saying they're going to maintain 15 feet on either side of this trail, or whatever the 15-foot perimeter, the village needs to be able to hold somebody accountable for maintenance and those sort of things. So,
sure.
Yeah, I think it's wise.
Okay. Sounds
So that gives me the draft, so I could start working on that agreement with Troyers.
You thinking a yearly agreement once we?
That's the way I would recommend it, just to be, no, we'll do it one time for a year, and it will automatically renew, and we can do, if it's 6 years, or we can do it automatically renews the next 5 years, unless notice is given in writing by a certain date, and spell all that out right in the agreement or whatever. So that way it's really a year agreement.
That sounds more than fair.
And it gives us both gives them the confidence that it's gonna keep going, and it gives us the ability to get out if we get to it. And I guess if they need to as well, I mean, if something happens in their farming operation or their family or something, and all of a sudden they say, well, hey, we can't do this anymore, we're not gonna be like, well, hey, we got a 6-year contract. You know? So that's all I had.
Okay. Anybody got any questions for Troy? Anything to add to that, or give him wisdom what to write, or like we got the gist what he's going to put in? So
This is more just a question process. So I know in typical agricultural land, it does go up for public bid. So in this scenario, it's because there's a maintenance component to it. That's how.
Because there's no money exchanging hands, basically. I mean, they're obviously getting benefit out of it, and so are we. I mean, we're basically saving money, and so there's not really, I mean, because there's no money changing hand, there's nothing, I guess for lack of a better term, there's no good to come out of publicly. I mean, normally you would publicly bid it, obviously, because if they were gonna farm it, you would, like we do on the other land, you would want whoever's gonna pay the most to farm it, so you publicly bid it. Or if we were paying for something, we would wanna do it because we would wanna pay the least, you know, as far as the qualified people. But here, you know, we're saving what we're saving no matter what, no matter who does it. And, I mean, I guess there would be, let's say we put something out there, there would really be no way to differentiate between two people who both said they were interested in the same arrangement.
Yeah, correct.
So, I mean, I'm not sure what good would come of doing it that way. So, but it mainly has to do with there's no money changing hands.
We also have to remember that Troyers are keeping our other 20 acres looking good.
Right.
Okay, any other questions for Troy? Okay, department heads. Chief Denny. Welcome back, Chief.
Thank you. All right. So one is I have our new hire, Andrew Fritsch, is here. Andrew, would you stand up for me, please? All right. So
Welcome.
he will be starting. We got his final test results back today, so he will be starting Wednesday. We just need to do a swearing in. So of him.
You want to do this now? Swear.
Yeah, we can do it now.
Okay. You're the parents, are you? Okay. I gotta have somebody hold the Bible.
Swearing that.
Hold the Bible for I can't read and hold.
Mark can't hold it.
I thought Bible. I, Andrew Fritsch.
I, Andrew Fritsch.
Do solemnly swear. That I will support the Constitution of the United States of America.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the State of Ohio. And the ordinances of the Village of Hicksville. Defiance County, Ohio.
Defiance County, Ohio.
I will and truly serve the Village of Hicksville.
I will truly serve the Village of Hicksville
as a police officer.
as a police officer
Without favor or affection.
without favor or affection,
Malice or ill will.
malice, or ill will.
That I will see.
That I will see.
Or cause our community's peace to be kept. Okay. That I will see. That I will see.
That I will see.
Or cause the community's peace.
Or cause the community's peace
to be kept.
to be kept
And preserved.
and preserved.
That I will prevent.
I will prevent,
To the best of my abilities.
to the best of my ability,
All offenses.
all offenses
Against that peace.
against that peace,
And that.
and that
While I continue.
while I continue
To be a police officer. Discharge all duties thereof.
discharge
All
all
duties.
duties thereof
Faithfully.
faithfully,
According to law.
according to law,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Right there. For me, you can have that one.
Bob, are you crying?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, now that we've hired Andrew, we have lost another officer. Sierra's last day will be tomorrow. She has moved back to her original appointment back in Paulding County. She is not staying on part-time. So we will be hiring another officer. Obviously, I released a news release today that we had some vandalism that took place over the weekend, Friday night into Saturday morning. We're asking any residents look at our news release and request anybody that has videos, Ring cameras, doorbell cameras, whatever it may be, to check their cameras between Friday night and Saturday morning. And if they have any information, please contact the police department at 542-6661 with any questions. Any information. You guys have talked about the ordinance committee stuff. Are you guys done with all that stuff? Meeting?
Well, I'm preparing some stuff. I'm gonna get it to him, so I assume there might be another meeting.
If I could, I don't know if I'm allowed to, but I would like to be involved in that. If I could.
Yeah,
So,
I'll let you know when it's meeting.
The last thing I want to say before I explain something else here is one, I'm requesting an executive session for hiring a public employee and compensation after the meeting. If we could do that. And then the last thing I have, I'm going to have Officer Ross Becker come up and explain about a week ago, 2 weeks ago now. 2 weeks ago, we received over $8,300. We received a grant for $8,300 that officers worked on and prepared and submitted. It's for our wellness program. Something we have to have for the state of Ohio for our collaborative program. So I'm going to have Officer. So that's all I have.
Any questions for the chief before he sits down? Okay.
Did they get all the stats?
Yep.
I knew that you had 4 people apply for the position that you just filled. Were any of those potential candidates that we could?
No.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, so our agency applied some months ago for the American Rescue Plan Act. It's a grant for the state of Ohio. With that, we had applied for a couple of different things. We want to have our staff become certified to be peer support. With our agency, like many agencies, mental health is critical, and to make sure that we are safeguarding against any kind of critical incident issues that arise and ensure the wellness of our officers. So in doing that, we're going to have as many staff as willing, because it's purely voluntary, do this training. There'll be people who are trained to offer peer support, as well as people who are trained to be leaders in peer support. They will oversee the program that the others will be facilitating. We will also have training through the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation. That'll be a little bit very similar in the wellness, but a little more guided with critical incidences, deaths, anything that we would respond to of that nature. And we also will be awarded access to an application that we can have on our phone. The app, again, is for mental health, and that application will give us resource access, a little bit of guidance for officers that are feeling a certain way but may not necessarily want to communicate that with anybody in particular. If they don't feel comfortable communicating that with myself or the chief, measures on their own that they can take to mitigate a little bit of the stress, or give them referrals if they want to go that route. It's anonymous, and that anonymity gives them a little bit more leeway in seeking out the resources. With the app, we'll be able to collect some data points. If they're looking for something very specific within that application, some kind of psychiatrist or anything like that, we'll be able to look at the data and say, 5 of our 8 employees have been seeking this out. Obviously, there's something underlying that we may have to address. We won't know who, but at least we'll kind of know what the direction that is for the employees in the department. That's what we're looking for. This will be entirely paid through the grant that we got awarded.
Sounds like a great resource.
Yeah, that means so.
Call me when you have a chance.
All right.
Well, I was just saying, your staff, I mean, you probably work with the officers and everybody. Is this something that they've been kind of asking for guidance and support through these channels and everything?
Well, we're just getting this up and going.
Okay.
We have been, Ross and I and Sergeant Doctor, we've been talking about this for a while. And again, part of the collaborative for the state of Ohio is you got to have a wellness program, okay, to be in compliance. So this grant came out, so Ross, I put Ross in charge of it. He's our wellness officer, and so he went to work on it and applied for it, and we got it.
Very good.
So
It's that mercy training.
Okay. Any other questions? Great news.
Perfect. Thank you.
Officer Fritsch, you want to introduce your parents? I meant to do that, and
Put him on the spot.
Father, Brian Fritsch, and mother, Cindy Fritsch.
okay, welcome. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, Scott, Fire and EMS Chief.
Just have a couple things. We do have a breakfast this Saturday from 7 to 11 and a 5K run at 9 a.m. if you're interested, Ron.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay. Oh, you are?
Running? Are you running?
At the breakfast.
We've got 2 classes going on right now. One is a firefighter 1 class, which we have 5 people in that. And the other one is an EMR class, first responder class, which we have 4. 2 who are already on the fire department. I have 2 other names that I need approval for. The first one is Tim Goodfellow, and the second one is Ashley Lemper.
Okay. I'll recommend Tim Goodfellow and Ashley Limper to be added.
The first responders.
Yeah, first responders, is that what it is?
Yeah.
And of course, drug tests and all that.
Right.
So I'll recommend that we bring it forward.
I'll support the mayor. Second. Ron, second.
Roll call.
Klepper,
Yes.
Beverly,
Yes.
Bassett,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Egley,
Yes.
Barth.
Yes.
And the 5 that are in the fire class were offered just a 36-hour class, and all 5 of them decided to go ahead and go with the firefighter 1. So they're putting the extra time in to get that out of the way.
How are you doing on your numbers?
They're coming up. We could always use help. So
How close are you to your numbers?
we're probably 8 to 10 away on fire.
EMTs?
As many as we can get.
Okay.
Any other questions for the chief?
How'd your driving test go Saturday?
Driving test went wonderful. I think we might have only missed 1 of your cones.
So, what, if you stay sober for a month now, they'll give you your license back?
Yeah.
Attaboy.
Yep. Yeah, Saturday we had a training burn in the morning. We had an acquired structure that was able to burn down, and got all the rookies in there and showed them a few things. And then afterwards we had our annual driving course. So everything went well.
Training.
Yep, it's all right.
I got a call from Headley Enterprise on the American Building, the alarm, and very impressed with the response, police, fire, EMS, very impressed. And so, thanks.
He called me also, and I wasn't able to be there. I was in Cleveland, but thanks to all of our fire guys.
Very professional, he said. He's very appreciative, so I just wanted to pass that along.
Thank you.
So just information off on that, we did charge someone out of that, she was prosecuted, and actually fled today, correct? Correct.
Again, a camera caught what happened, so that helps. Yeah. So, good job, everybody. Park director, I don't see the park director. Anybody got any report on the park? I'm guessing it's pretty well closed down, I'm guessing.
It looks like the fundraiser's active and up for the splash pad. I haven't heard any updates on the master plan or anything for the aquatics area, but
We sent out an email today from Kyle Jones with Standard Aquatics, sent out like 6 different ideas today. Or Collins was sending out, trying to figure out if everyone wanted to meet again this week and or send a list of what you like or don't like. As far as, that's all. Before we have this meeting, that's as far as it's got so far, so.
Cheryl, fiscal officer report.
My usual, the fund status, and you might want to keep a copy of this one because next year it's not going to look like that. You have the September utility and income tax collections, and a flu shot schedule that's for the village employees. Every year, I talk to John at the pharmacy, and he makes that time available to us. So we go get a flu shot. If you can't, especially police officers, call him and he'll make an appointment after noon. Pick one of those days that you can walk right in and get your shot.
Got a question on the general fund. Is still down. Do you look forward to what next month?
No.
Because it was 1.2 and now it's down to 900. So, is there a reason for that in the last month?
Because I had to pay the police officers. Here, look on the bills list.
Yeah, I like to see at least around the million range. And crazy down. So, okay.
there was an expense we're supposed to be, a larger expense that was supposed to be reimbursed, correct? For the well, was it the well field?
1.039 million. We have to pay it first and get reimbursed.
Okay, any questions for Cheryl? Thank you. Mayor's report, I have nothing except commending EMTA firemen and police department, so I have nothing to report.
I just remember, we had a board meeting, what was it, 2 weeks ago, a week ago? You were there, 2 weeks ago. We did meet, I brought up, we were talking about the existence of park board, the purpose, that kind of thing. I know Andrew Lawrence was there, and Adam, Corey went, and just the two of them out of the park board were able to be at the meeting, but we kind of discussed a little bit. They kind of felt kind of what is their purpose, and like I said, we've talked about it for years. They're kind of in agreement if they didn't have a main role in the operations. I had suggested, Corey's kind of taken more of a seat along with volunteering operations and purchasing and project cost and all that, quotes and different things like that. So I said we kind of he's going to work with them with the budget for the park this year. That's stuff the park board would listen to in the years past, but it's kind of what Gary and Val kind of needed. So, but I know Corey said he's going to work with them a little closer, so I'll just pass that along.
Troy, did you ever?
I did look at it, but I'm still finishing up. But I don't think we can't totally disband it. I mean, I guess we can limit the ability because there are the way it's set up. But the primary thing is, like I mentioned, is if there was ever a need for like a levy or something like that, it would have to be done in the name of the park board. So I still wanted to look at some more things, but after the last meeting, like the next day or so, I quickly just to look at it and get my eyes on it. But I didn't check on the historically, like when it got set up in the village and what the reason for it was, and so I do need to follow up on that.
Okay.
I just have one announcement. I'd like to congratulate Kenzie Schrader. I was told earlier today before the meeting I didn't get results for the whole team, but our girls varsity golf team made it to districts today, and I don't know if the team scored, but I know Kenzie Schrader made it out as at least an individual if the team didn't move on, so she'll be competing in state representing Hicksville. So about 2 weeks, October 13th, 14th, or 14th, 15th is when that happens. So.
Good things happening at the school also with the blue ribbon. They come in 13th in the state, all test scores, 1 of 13. So this is something, grade card for the school. That's separate. Yeah, maybe the school board will announce that later. Great things happening out there. So.
I know they're going to Washington, the elementary has to get an award here coming up.
Okay, anything, somebody wants to do executive session, right, Chief?
Yes.
Somebody?
I move we go into executive session to discuss police matters.
Compensation.
Yeah.
Of a public employee and hiring of a public employee.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Second.
Police matters isn't on the list.
Mike.
Hi, Brian.
Is that who seconded it?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Coming tomorrow.
Roll call. Okay.
Barth?
Yes.
Bassett?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Klepper?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Egley?
Yes.
What time works good?